can't tell you for sure if you're going to enjoy this video. It's going to be raw, and I don't have a topic to start with, so I don't know where it's going to end up. Probably going to be talking about a number of different things, and part of it is going to have to do with this channel specifically. If you're interested in that, you're welcome to stick along for the ride. I still record these videos and often say that I'll post them, and then I don't post them. I scrap them. So if this one does get through somehow, just know that it doesn't happen that often. There's been a lot of these that never saw the light of day. But I did come across a YouTuber yesterday, and he was making an argument for posting bad videos on your channel. And I really liked that, because there's something that is so liberating about posting bad content. And by bad, I mean it's not polished. There's no point to the video. There's no inherent value that someone gets from it. There's no real substance behind the video itself. It's just a video, and people can choose to watch it if they want or not. It's totally up to them. And you yourself, the creator, the person creating the video, you are in a way the one that's getting the most value out of posting a bad video. And the value you're getting out of that is actually coming from a number of different elements. One is fighting against perfectionism. Allowing yourself to just make something that isn't that nice or that great or that polished is liberating. It's freeing. You can just let go. You don't have to stay so wound up. The second is, because the video is most likely not that great to begin with, you don't have to worry so much about what you say or how you unroll things, how many ums and ahs you have in your speech, how many times you circle around the point but never land on it, how many rabbit holes you go down. You can just make something because you wanted to hit record, you wanted to talk, you wanted to express yourself. And there's no obligation to do anything more than that. There's no obligation at all. You don't have to make something that is useful to another human being. You can just make it for you because you want to talk about something, you need to talk about something, or you want to get something off your chest, or maybe it's not even that. Maybe you're just bored and want something to do. Maybe you want to see what happens if you keep making videos that are crummy or bad, or, not something that is clearly answering some specific search engine intent. You're just making it because you enjoy the act of creation itself. The act of doing something. Maybe it's the video editing you like, or finding or recording the footage that you put in your video, or just the talking itself. Maybe you don't completely understand why you like making videos, and you're making them anyway. And maybe you're talking to your audience like you're talking to them, but in reality, you're just talking to yourself. Might be a little bit meta, but who cares? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if your channel succeeds or fails. It doesn't matter if your video succeeds or fails. If you get subscribers, great. If you don't, great. Same thing for views and likes. Attention is what people choose to give you if they want to. Which, in a way, is actually something that is so cool, because when someone does give you attention, there's a lot of value behind that. because they're choosing to spend that time with you. In a way, it's actually a beautiful gift. Now, you can get positive attention and negative attention. Regardless, attention is attention. You captured someone's attention long enough that they engage somehow. And whether it's positive or negative, it's something they decided to spend their life with. They chose to spend a period of time with you, or focused on whatever it was you were sharing, or with you in that moment, which is still pretty interesting. I don't mind dead space in videos. I like it. I almost prefer it to having background music. And at first, when I started this channel, I was planning on putting background music in all of my videos. And part of the reason why I didn't was of licensing issues. And I didn't want to run into a problem with some music creator pulling my video down from a copyright strike because they set their music as Creative Commons and then they changed their license on their music. I didn't want to have to deal with that headache. I was not interested in my entire channel getting destroyed overnight because of some licensing problem. And so I decided to not put background music in my videos. And since then, I've probably had like between 10 to 20 different people say, please put background music in your videos. And at this point now, even though it's been requested quite a few times, I still don't plan to, nor will, most likely, unless it's music I've created myself, which I own. And I don't want to do that right now. I may in the future create music that's my own. But for now, I don't plan to add any background music, even though popularly requested. And it's funny because what started as a technical hindrance to the channel became a way of creative expression. I almost enjoy my videos. I do enjoy my videos more without background music. I listen back to some of them, not all of them, but some of them. And I like that there's dead space. If you want to call it dead space, empty space, silence. I like silence. I'm a person who spends a lot of time in silence. Most of my later 20s and now early 30s have been spent in silence. Partially because of a shrinking social circle, but also partly because I really enjoy silence. I have admired people who choose to speak only when there is something to say, rather than speak consistently with incoherent nonsense. Which is a bit ironic considering this channel is mostly speaking incoherent nonsense. So I am doing the complete opposite of that which I've admired. But I'm okay with that. Human beings are walking contradictions anyway. There's a time to speak and there's a time to listen. I've had people before, and this has happened multiple times on this channel, and I'm just talking based on my own experience here. I'm not trying to pump up my own ego. I want to clarify. I've had people before comment on wisdom they felt like they've received from this channel. And I want to specify that I don't consider myself a wise person. I have made a tremendous amount of stupid mistakes in my life. And I continue to make a tremendous amount of stupid mistakes in my life. For me to call myself wise would be the largest joke I could possibly imagine. Because so many decisions I made ended up with consequences I either didn't foresee or didn't want. And I regrettably made decisions I wish I hadn't have made. And then maybe you could make the argument, oh, well, maybe that's because that makes you wise because you made stupid decisions. Maybe. But I still don't consider myself that way. And I don't want to ever consider myself that way either. Because I think when you start to ascribe traits to your person, your character, your being, I am this, I am that. You start to mold your personality under that label you give yourself or other people give you. And that becomes a persona rather than allowing yourself to just be. Allowing yourself to be really is the essential explanation of just be yourself. When someone says just be yourself, for the longest time in my life, I never understood what the fuck they meant. And it frustrated me to no end. What do you mean be yourself? I am existing right now. I'm being myself. I don't understand what you mean. It took me a long time to realize what be yourself meant and what it means now. I think some people pick up on it way earlier in life and other people don't. Some people are really never themselves. They're always being somebody for somebody else. And I feel bad for people who do live in that mode because you kind of deny yourself a lot of happiness without really knowing it. I think the most clear lesson I've learned was when I would try to be somebody that someone else would like. Like, for example, relationships, like romantic relationships. Sometimes you can meet somebody in your life and you get infatuated with a person. Like you just go head over heels. You're like, oh my God, I can't live without this person. I need them in my life. They're so amazing. They're so beautiful. They're so charming, funny, whatever it is. And you get obsessed over the idea of a relationship with that person. And you can fantasize that in your head. Fantasize your life together with that person or what it could be like and yada, yada, yada. And you know, this has often fallen into that nice guy paradox where like, you know, oh, you just want to be a nice guy and then hopefully they'll like you. But when you become so attached to the outcome of being in a relationship with that person, you can want that outcome so much that you're willing to sacrifice parts of yourself in order to achieve it. What I mean by that is you are looking for that person's approval. You begin modifying your personality so that they will like you. You know, if they say, oh, I don't like coffee, you might say, oh, I don't like coffee either, even though you drink it every morning. Or the more subtle one, oh, that's okay, we can just go have tea. It's a compromise of your own character. Instead of saying, oh, that's okay, I like coffee though. You deny yourself a portion of who you are. It's like you almost are sacrificing a piece of your own character in order for someone else to like you. You're wanting their approval. And I have fallen victim to this trap so many times in my life. Like a ridiculous amount of times. And it took me a long time to see it. And then even when I saw it, a long time to stop doing it. It just became a habit or a pattern where I would deny myself in order to appease somebody else. It sort of falls under people pleasing. And then, you know, to correct this, sometimes you can swing in the exact opposite direction where you just start always putting yourself first and you start becoming very selfish and you don't want to, you know, abide by anybody's preferences whatsoever to try to counterbalance this problem you've had in your life, which ends up being another problem in and of itself. Being able to find balance in your life is it's so difficult. Balance is not easy. Like whether it's learning how to walk or learning how to ride a bike or learning how to ride on a skateboard or like learning how to juggle two different elements of your life at the same time. Balance is tricky. And in our lives, it can feel like our personality or who we are, what we're interested in, these things can swing like a pendulum back and forth, including our emotions. And it's so difficult to find that place of peace that's right in the middle, where everything feels like it's in harmony. You're balanced. There's not too much of one thing and less of another. It's just the right amount for both. I believe that part of finding that balance can come down to allowing the pendulum to swing. Sometimes you're going from the left to the right in these big, giant, sweeping motions. Your personality changes. What you like changes. Your philosophy on life changes. How you conduct yourself. And then you can go back and forth, trying to find the place that's in between that makes sense for you. It feels like life has this unending amount of complexity to it. Like just when you feel like you can talk about 8 to 10 different elements of an aspect of your life, you can discover another 100 layers that are influencing the outcome, the process, the understanding of what's going on. And the more you factor these into equations, the more confusing it all gets. Which is perhaps why we like simplified explanations to questions we have about life. questions we have about why people do certain things. We'll just chalk it up to one simple answer and oversimplification, which really is never actually the answer. There's always so many moving pieces, so many variables we are not aware of, on top of the ones we are aware of, which is already a massive amount. Perhaps our brains just get overwhelmed by this indefinite amount of information and knowledge that we do seek a simple answer. We want a simple explanation for why did this happen? Or why is this person being this way? Or why am I like this? If only answers were that simple. We learn mathematics in school, and we learn that A plus B equals C. And it's so simple. It has only 3 variables. And it makes sense. And mathematics is all around us in the world we live in. Yet, the further you delve into it, the more deeply complex it is. The more variables there are, the more functions there is. It feels unending. And it's beautiful in a way because of its complexity. It is not only captivating, but genuinely awe-inspiring when you really sit and dwell on the complexity of life. It can be both incredibly overwhelming and beautiful simultaneously. Being aware of being alive is such a weird feeling. It feels like we go through life forgetting about it 99% of the time. And then every once in a while, something will happen, or we stop. Maybe it's one of those moments where you're watching the sunset, the sunrise, you're sitting on a park bench, watching water flow, or maybe you're laying in the grass looking at the stars. There is something that makes it, in that moment, so incredibly beautiful. Even amidst all of the pain and suffering and challenge in life, something so incredibly beautiful about those moments. And it's still hard to understand why. Perhaps that question will always forever itch our brains. The itch you cannot scratch. No matter how many times you attempt to scratch around the itch remains. It's often the place I always come back to whenever I'm feeling down. Where life is being frustrating, upsetting, disappointing. I'm in a place I don't want to be. the sooner you can zoom out and just sit back and look at a picture that's larger than the one you're currently facing. The sooner things get a little bit easier. Not always. Sometimes you can still sit in that space and still feel somewhat miserable, or whatever is bothering you is still bothering you. But sometimes it can make it a little bit better. I can't believe that it's almost been 90 days since I started doing this channel. I started out with some like strangely esoteric philosophy content, and that was fun for a while. But then it felt a little bit too performative. And so I felt like I had to dial it back and start playing around with other things. And I did. I'm glad I did. I still like esoteric philosophy. Or just philosophy. You don't even need to add the esoteric. Esoteric is just like a fun word to say. It sounds slightly more sophisticated when you add esoteric in front of something. It really doesn't add that much more value. It's just basically saying, for a niche audience. But yeah, I don't know. It was fun. I liked it. But after like almost, I don't know, 225 videos and 90 days later, it's still a weird feeling doing this channel, but it's a different weird feeling than when I started. It's a strange space. I've come across other YouTube channels that are doing something similar, and I really like them. I pretty much subscribe instantly when I see it, because it also inspires me to keep going. But it's a strange place, because it's counterculture to YouTube, a channel like this, because it's intentionally going against conventions that are established. Like, even for example, when I talked about earlier, people recommending I put background music in my videos. Another reason I don't do it is because I know it makes the video better. In a way. It conforms to a pre-existing niche that exists, which is someone talking with background music in the background. And I like that I'm not conforming to something already established. I'm just making shit I want to make, even if that shit is shit. Even if it sucks. Just hitting record, walking along the pathway of conversation, and finding out where you end up. Some of my most favorite experiences in life were going on a walk with somebody, and we didn't have a destination. We just started walking. And then at some point we thought, oh, it'd be kind of fun to go over there. Let's go over there. And we go over there, and it was nice. Then we think, oh, maybe we should go over there. That might be fun. We go over there. And that was nice. I love that. I love that the whole point of the walk is to walk. There's nothing else more than that. And you just find out where you end up. And there was no complete focused part of the walk. The whole point was just to go on a little journey for the sake of enjoying it. Taking a direction you hadn't taken before. Following a rabbit hole down the hole. Maybe walking in circles, doing laps because you like doing the lap. I feel like the more I do this channel, the more I make videos like this one, the more I become okay with talking in circles and rabbit holes and pauses and ums and ahs and lack of focus. All of the things that would make a successful YouTube channel. I feel like doing the opposite is so much more fun. Because for some reason, people keep subscribing and I'm doing the opposite. I feel like George Costanza from Seinfeld. Great episode, by the way, if you've ever seen that. It's like this character, if you don't know Seinfeld, I'll just give you a little backstory. This character who essentially just fails at life all the time in general and is just has no job, goes nowhere in life, is just having very little success in relationships, decides one day that he's just going to do the opposite of everything he's ever done before, no matter what it is. He's like, I'm going to do the opposite because it doesn't matter. I'm already failing. Why don't I just try doing the opposite? And he starts to do the opposite of everything. And suddenly he starts succeeding in the most unimaginable ways possible. And it's hilarious because he becomes a changed man overnight. And it's the funniest thing. It's one of the greatest Seinfeld episodes that exists out there. I would totally recommend watching it if you haven't seen it before. It's so funny. And it's ironically true in some ways. Like if you do the opposite of things you've always done, you might be surprised where it takes you. It's definitely going to take you on an adventure you haven't encountered before. I like that. I love that episode. I love that for George Costanza, even though he's a fictitious character. But maybe he actually exists in some alternate universe. Who knows? There's just something about doing something for the sake of doing it. Even if you know it's going to fail or not work out or never really matter on the scale that you would be excited about. Maybe it does perform better than you think. There's just something about the art of doing that is inherently satisfying. Taking action, even when there's no clear outcome, no clear reward for that, the work you do. It's just work for the sake of working. There's just something enjoyable about it. At any rate, I have gone on for 34 minutes and 15 seconds. I think this would be a good time to wrap this video up. Not so much because I need to stop talking, but more so because I need to use the bathroom and I don't want to take my microphone in there. So thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one. Zen out.